understand that my case is about a fundamental constitutional issue, which is only an act of parliament, primary legislation, can establish or take away people's rights. So a motion with a timetable is really not good enough.
There was an awful lot of anger and emotion stirred up by the High Court ruling, and also in the last few days as the case was being heard by the Supreme Court. What do you say to those 52%, or some of those 52% of the British public, who basically accuse you and the unelected judges of trying to thwart the will of the people?
Well, this is exactly what they voted for. British law in a British court decided by British judges to preserve British parliamentary sovereignty. This is exactly what we should be voting for.
But they're afraid that Parliament is being used, that the courts are being used to either kick Brexit into the long grass or, at the end of the day, possibly even subvert it.
No, because this case is about the mechanism of how we leave. It's not about leaving. It's about the process and the mechanism. In every walk of life, there's a process. If you want to drive a car, you have to apply for a license, get insurance, MOTs. There was no process in place when it came to Article 50, and that's what this case is asserting.
But there are some Remainers who hope that the process will be so complicated and long-winded that at the end of the day, it might lead to an overturning of the original result, either with another referendum or indeed an election that will result.
I have to say, I'm not in the camp of a second referendum. I don't believe we have to move forwards, and that has to be about a vote in Parliament. And those people who say that it will thwart the will because of Parliament voting on this, actually look at the motion, your original question yesterday. It was, a huge in favour of voting for the government. So I do not believe that there is a will in the Parliament to overturn Brexit.
Now, after the High Court ruling, you got some extraordinary abuse in social media. I mean, really repulsive stuff. People calling for you to be killed, to be deported, someone, I think, wishing that you got cancer. I mean, really nasty, nasty stuff. What's your response to those people?
Well, first of all, I can say that it's not just on social media. It's much closer than that. It's letters, emails, calls.
Is that still going on?
Still going on.
Every day?
Yes, every day. And there was an announcement this week on the police action. There are more being investigated by the police. But what I think is, I have to put it to one side, because people are angry. And I don't actually blame them for being angry, because we got here because of people's anger, because people are angry that they're not being considered, they're being left behind, that phrase the politicians use. So I'm not angry with them. What I am angry with, I'm angry with the politicians and certain media who are enabling people or saying to them it's okay to behave like this. It isn't.
Do you think the government has done enough to silence that kind of abuse?
Absolutely not. I mean,
have you asked them to do something? Have you written to the Prime Minister and said, say something about this?
No. We have taken action legally and through other associations and IPSO, etc., where we've asked, I have complained, but I would have thought that the Prime Minister herself would have thought about it. David Davis did stand up in Parliament on the Monday, but I have to say it's shameful that it took a question from Chuka Munif to allow him to do that. But more politicians of all colours should be standing up and saying, this is wrong.
I don't think it does, but what it does is reinforce the argument that was made by those who argued for us to leave the European Union, which is that the people through Parliament are sovereign. And what the Supreme Court today have done is make a declaration to that effect. And let us be clear, we don't live in a dictatorship in this country. We respect the rule of law. And so these judges today should be allowed to come out with the judgment that they have, free from attack and being respected.
But we have had that statement from the Lord Chancellor making that point.
Yes, and that's welcome. It's a shame it wasn't made when various newspapers were declaring our judges to be enemies of the people simply for doing their job. But the reality of the situation is, look, in Parliament there is a majority, I believe, in the House of Commons to trigger Article 50. But the process of triggering Article 50 is quite different and is a separate matter from the content of the deal. And I'm absolutely clear that in terms of the interests of my constituents, I am not going to give Theresa May a blank cheque in these negotiations and in agreeing a deal with our EU partners to destroy the livelihoods and living standards of middle and lower income families in my constituency. Parliament has every right to seek to put down amendments both to the Article 50 bill and the Great Repeal Bill to safeguard the interests of working people and to make sure that other promises that people made about us leaving the European Union, like, for example, it leading to £350 million extra per week going to our NHS, that those promises are respected.
Many Africans have been uncertain as to what his administration portends for the continent. Now sworn in as the 45th president of the US, international watchers say there may not be much change after all. Uchenwizu examines Africa's and indeed Nigeria's expectation on President Donald Trump administration.
People across the world watched with keen interest the 2016 America's electioneering process with mixed feelings. Apprehensions were high in Africa, a continent that has had strong ties with the United States, especially in the areas of security and aid. Africans believed relations with the United States could be most unfavorable if Trump won, due to what many regarded as unpleasant remarks about the continent during his campaigns. Some foreign policy analysts expressed fear that Africa's economy will be negatively affected if Donald Trump translates those rhetorics of his into action. With this, the recently signed African Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA trade deal, worth about $50 billion, is likely to be under threat, as Trump may also demand that African countries reciprocate America's duty-free exports. Concerns are also being expressed that his promised cuts on foreign aid will adversely impact on many African nations. And his skepticism on climate change deal, observers say, portends danger for countries that are threatened by rising seawater and those that depend on agriculture.
I see an opportunity for us to look at ourselves, our political circumstances, our policies, our government, our role as citizens, and see that we could do better.
Trump's prospects for Africa may appear unpredictable. He recently appointed a Nigerian, Adebayo Ogunlesi, as a member of his economic advisory team. This development is seen as good for Africa and Nigeria in particular.
The onus rests on Africa to define its own relationship, to present what it thinks it is its own interests.
One of the greatest gifts that Trump may give to us is to remove the illusion that our public officers often have that somehow the salvation of our country, the solution to our problems, lay there.
There are also speculations that Donald Trump could see trade with Africa as a way to compete with China, which has been Africa's largest trading partner since 2009. Analysts project that Trump could be the partner African governments desire after all, and that AFRICOM, which is the U.S. Military Command Center for Africa, will continue to play major roles, especially in the fight against terrorism. Uchenwizu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, as attention across the world today shifts to the United States of America, as Republican Donald Trump assumes office as the 45th president, an event that has far-reaching implications to Nigeria and Africa, as a new American leader is said to have little concern on the continent. Guests on NTA's program Good Morning Nigeria, however, say it could be the turning point for the continent to look within in addressing her challenges. Saliu Abdullahi has reports.
The guests say Africa as a continent is equally endowed with abundant human and natural resources that hold a lot of potentials to propel her to political and economic development. They are of the view that despite not being on his agenda, Trump cannot completely ignore Africa, as there are existing bilateral and multilateral agreements that need to be respected.
He's moving America back to its post-Second World War history, which is about his isolation. His isolationist disposition, which is around think internally, act internally. Already, U.S. is only our number 3 trading partner behind China and European Union. So if you move away, other powers will move in to take your position.
And again, he's going to show his true color. He has already done, but that was during the campaign. Now it's time to govern.
Being a Republican president does not make him to ostracize Africa. It also depends on his personality. That is where Donald Trump's personality will come into play, irrespective of bipartisanship or not.
The guest re-emphasized that globalization has made it impossible for a country to unilaterally survive, and that Trump will soon come to terms with that. The guest, however, said it is an opportunity for Africa to stop relying on others and trade more with itself and other willing and friendly nations of the world. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Conflit de lutte de pouvoir ou le contrôle de gouvernement intérimaire, de transition ou temporaire. Je pense que Haïti traverse un moment extrêmement difficile et dangereux.
Last week, the president of Haiti stepped down, leaving a power vacuum behind. So we're trying to figure out who's actually in charge of Haiti now. The chairman of the National Assembly has just arrived. Some would say that he is the top official in Haiti right now as well. Senator Prévert, one quick question for you. Are you the leader of Haiti right now?
Je suis un sénateur de la République qui a bénéficié de la confiance de mes collègues pour présider le Sénat et par voie de conséquence l'Assemblée nationale.
Will you be putting your candidacy up to become the interim president of Haiti?
Ça va dépendre de mes collègues sénateurs et députés.
Bonne chance.
Merci.
It sounds like the chairman of the National Assembly, the parliament, is thinking about becoming the interim president himself. There's also a process they've created where anybody can apply to be a candidate for interim president too. Excuse-moi, est-ce que vous voulez devenir candidat président? Non.
Député, c'est un député.
Excuse-moi. Est-ce que vous voulez devenir président?
Bon, là, je suis venu pour avoir des informations, pour savoir les documents qu'on a besoin pour postuler et je vais voir.
They've posted the rules for registration. Most of the requirements are pretty straightforward. You have to be a resident of Haiti for the last 5 years. You have to be a Haitian citizen, obviously. But there is one thing that sticks out. There is a 500,000 gourd fee, which is around $8,000 US to even submit the application. It's a lot of money. So how many candidates are registering to be interim president in this room right now?
Vous voyez, il y a près de 5 candidats autour de cette table. Donc, je ne sais pas s'ils sont déjà prêts pour se faire inscrire, mais ils sont là. Donc, nous sommes prêts à leur donner toutes les informations requises pour qu'ils puissent faire leur inscription.
Ça, c'est inacceptable. Moi, que toute presse, moi, c'est citoyen haïtien et que nous lançons un message clair par la nation. Pour qui ça? Nous mettons pas même. C'est comme si ça nous fait là. Nous, après nous faire là, et pas des dealers pour faire lui. Kidnappeurs, il n'y a qui a l'argent dans les universitaires. C'est des kidnappeurs, des dealers gros. Nous acceptons, venez ici. Moi-même, en tant que nègre, parce que quand on m'a 500 000 gouttes,
Maître Mixa Mapita, donc on est professeur et avocat. Nous aimerions servir le pays puisque nous constatons un vide constitutionnel dans le pays.
Do you think that the process of registering is fair, or are the requirements for candidates too difficult?
C'est pas pour législateur là maintenant sans aucune loi pour prévoir que 500 000 gouttes. Ça n'existe pas. Ça, c'est une violation de la loi et ne pas accepter le monde continue à violer la loi.
You bring the money anyway?
Nous n'avons pas à contribuer dans la violation de la loi.
So we've come to the house of the Prime Minister of Haiti to find out if he's actually the person running the country now. Hi.
The news.
Simon Ostrovsky, Vice News from New York.
Mr. Alvin from the cabinet.
How are you? Very well, very well. Good to meet you. We'd very much like to meet the Prime Minister to interview him.
Yes, he's very busy now. When he's free,
right,
I'll call you and meet you.
Yes, the Prime Minister. Bonsoir, Monsieur le Premier ministre.
Bonsoir. Very nice. Are you the leader of Haiti right now?
Yes. En référence à la Constitution, j'assume le rôle de la responsabilité du pouvoir exécutif, étant donné que le président est présentement empêché.
We asked the same question in Parliament, and over there they said it was the chairman of the National Assembly who was the top official in Haiti at this moment.
Il n'y a aucune référence qui dit que le président de l'Assemblée nationale serait en charge du pays en cas d'absence du président de la République. Ce n'est pas le cas.
Do you support the procedure which Parliament is now conducting for selecting an interim president?
On est dans un conflit de lutte de pouvoir. On avait un problème de lutte de pouvoir légitime à travers des élections. Maintenant, on est en train d'orienter la situation vers une autre lutte de pouvoir pour le contrôle de gouvernements intérimaires, de transition ou temporaire. Je pense que Haïti traverse un moment extrêmement difficile et dangereux.
There has been intense immigration jitters for Jamaicans living in the United States in light of the 90-day immigration and refugee ban on persons from 7 Muslim countries imposed by President Donald Trump. Amid the concern, immigration attorney Delia Walker Huntington is urging Jamaicans with citizenship from any of the banned countries to seek legal advice before traveling to the U.S.
Immigration is one of these areas where the people on the front line have a lot of discretion. And so depending on who you get as an immigration officer when you're trying to enter the U.S., whether it is a green card holder or a person with a visa, green card or the visa gives you permission to come to the border legally and ask for permission then to enter. So you can expect increased scrutiny from some officers who are going to take these executive orders literally and who are going to try to deny people entry into the United States. It's not a matter of trying to scare anybody. These are just the facts of a new reality that we're living in.
And at least one leader of the Muslim community in Jamaica says President Donald Trump's ban is an act of discrimination which passes judgment on all Muslims.
So when you pass a law like that one, you're supposed to allow those who are already on the way before you know, so that we not cause embarrassment. And the point is that everybody make a choice on their own way. So it's a discrimination. That is not something that is right.
Meanwhile, the government has said it is closely monitoring the situation and has appealed to Jamaicans to remain calm.